Hey, my people. You know, when we talk about the great powers of the ancient world, the history books give us the usual suspects. You know, Rome, Persia, China. But there was another, a kingdom in the African highlands that was so rich, so powerful, and so well connected that even the Romans had to recognize it as an equal. Now, this was the kingdom of Aksum in what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. It controlled the trade routes of the Red Sea. Its merchants dealt in gold, ivory, incense, and precious stones. Its rulers minted coins, built towering stone monuments, and commanded armies that crossed seas to fight in foreign lands. And here's the part that will blow your mind. In the 3rd century AD, Aksum defeated a Roman-backed force in Yemen, securing control of key Arabian ports. It was a victory that proved Africa wasn't just watching history happen. It was shaping it. And at its height, Aksum was one of the 4 great powers of the ancient world, named alongside Rome, Persia, and China in Persian records. And yet, how many of us learned about it in school? I know I didn't. So today on The Breakdown, we're bringing this forgotten superpower back into the spotlight. And we're looking at its rise, its wealth, its global connections, and the lessons it still holds for Africa today. My people, this isn't just a feel-good ancient history story. This is proof that Africa has always been more than the world wants to admit. And it's a reminder that Africa's potential isn't behind us. It's still ahead, waiting to be greater than ever. Before we break it down, please do me a favor and subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell for alerts. And if you enjoyed this video, like, share, drop a comment, and a super thanks, and join our membership for exclusives. Also, we're hosting our annual conference and awards gala in New York City this November. Yes, and I'd love to invite you to join us. Visit BlackStarsExperience.com to learn more and register. Hey there! Before we continue with the episode, I want you to quickly pause. Visit BlackStarsExperience.com and sign up for our upcoming conference in New York City this November. This is where leaders, allies, and change makers are coming together to open doors, share opportunities, and push the culture and the community forward. From our eye-opening discussions, expert-led sessions, to a career expo and networking opportunities, if you're serious about your career, your business, your future, you must be in the room. Because this is more than an event. This is a movement. It's about creating pathways for all of us to rise together. November 13th and 14th, New York City. Hey, don't just hear about it later. Be there. Secure your seat at the BlackStars Experience because your future deserves it. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
A unique civilization arose in this part of East Africa with what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea at its center, the Kingdom of Aksum. In its heyday in the 3rd and 4th centuries AD, it was described as one of the world's 4 greatest civilizations. The rulers of the Kingdom of Aksum controlled trade between Africa, Arabia, and India. And according to local tradition, Aksum was founded by the son of the legendary Queen of Sheba and is home to the sacred Ark of the Covenant.
Now, to understand how Aksum became one of the world's great powers, you have to start with its location. High in the northern Ethiopian and Eritrean highlands, Aksum sat at the crossroads of Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. On one side, you had the Red Sea, a gateway to Arabia and India. And on the other side, you had trade routes that were stretching deep into the African interior. This was prime real estate for commerce. From the 1st century AD, Aksumite merchants were exporting gold, ivory, frankincense, and exotic animal skins. In return, ships from the Mediterranean and India brought wine, glassware, silk, and spices. If you wanted to trade between Rome and India, chances are your goods passed through Aksum's ports. But Aksum wasn't just sitting in the middle of trade routes. It was controlling them. Its rulers built a navy and commanded armies that could project power across the Red Sea. By the 3rd century, Aksum was strong enough to conquer parts of Yemen and southern Arabia, cutting into Rome's influence in the region. And here's where the records start to get even more interesting. Persian sources from that era list Aksum alongside Rome, Persia, and China as the 4 great world powers. Now, think about that. Africa wasn't just a supplier of resources. It was seen as an equal player on the world stage. This rise wasn't just about wealth. It was about vision. Aksum's leaders understood that controlling trade meant controlling power, and they built an entire empire that could hold its own against any rival.
One of the best known and most powerful of the kings was Ezana. Seen here on this coin, he ruled in the 4th century.
King Ezana claimed the title of King of Kings for the first time. When we say King of Kings, it is clear indication that there had several kings under him. Because of the trade interruption in the Sudan, he campaigned as far as Norway to punish the people who interrupted the trade. And he was successful in destroying the town of Norway. That also indicates his greatness, that he had influence over the Sudan, over the South Arabian kingdoms, and of the Horn of Africa. Besides, the very fact that he controlled the 2 sides of the Red Sea, that makes him great king.
And what do we know about him as a person?
King Ezana was a despotic ruler because he punished any rebel in the Horn of Africa. Whenever there was rebellion, no matter for what reason, Ezana had to campaign against them in order to punish them.
My people, if wealth and military might built Aksum's power, then innovation and culture cemented its legacy. First, let's talk about the coins. See, Aksum was one of the first African states to mint its own currency. We're talking gold, silver, and bronze coins stamped with the faces of its kings. Now, these coins weren't just for show. They were accepted in markets from the Nile Valley to the Arabian Peninsula to India. And they told a story. As Aksum embraced Christianity in the 4th century under King Ezana, the pagan symbols on its coins were replaced with the Christian cross, making Aksum the first major empire in the world to officially put the cross on its currency.
Traders like Aksum would have used currency hundreds of years ago in Aksum. In fact, Aksum was one of the earliest states in Africa to mint its own gold, silver, and copper coins. King Endibis was the first to introduce coins in the second half of the 3rd century AD. And some of our information about the kings of Aksum comes from these coins. One of the best known and most powerful of the kings was Ezana. Seen here on this coin, he ruled in the 4th century.
Then there's the architecture. See, if you visit Aksum today, you see its iconic stelae, massive stone obelisks carved from single pieces of granite, some over 100 feet tall. No mortar, no cranes, just engineering skill and human determination. These weren't tombstones. They were status symbols, marking the power and prestige of the elite.
In the center of the city of Aksum, once the capital of this stunning empire, stand some of the most remarkable monuments of the ancient world.
These large vertical phallic symbols were erected in honor of the glory of the king. Under solid blocks of syenite, the king's body was laid to rest.
This park is a memorial ground of a civilization. over 100 stelae erected between the 3rd and 4th centuries AD as grave markers for Aksum's elite. They're taller than any other monoliths crafted in the ancient world. I asked Dr. Ababal Gela to explain to me how architecture on this scale could have been created back then.
Ababal, how in the world did they move this huge slab here from another place?
They brought these stones from a distance of 5 kilometers to the west.
As one big unit.
As one big unit.
This fragmented column, estimated to weigh 700 tons, is one of the largest single pieces of stone ever carved by sculptors. Scholars believe that it buckled as it was being erected.
The carving process, they definitely used chiseling. So they must have used iron chisels.
So the artwork took place right where
Right
it would be erected.
So the carving might have taken probably 10 years, 9 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
How long did it take to move it from the quarry?
Probably they can drag it a distance of 10 yards or 15 yards a day. That might have also taken them about 3 years.
Do we know for whom this stela was created?
We don't know certainly, but if we see fragmentary historical sources, and then some evidences from archaeological excavations that are made at different times in this area, this stele seems to be made for Al-Amida. Al-Amida the first.
And when did he live?
The second half of the 3rd century.
And let's not forget the written word. Aksum used his own script, Ge'ez, which is still in use today as the liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Now, it was one of the earliest written languages in sub-Saharan Africa, used for royal decrees, religious texts, and trade records. All of this made Aksum a beacon in the ancient world, not just a military power, but a center of art, religion, and yes, commerce. So it's no wonder that foreign traders and diplomats recorded it with such respect. So what exactly happened to Aksum? Well, even the greatest empires aren't immune to change, are they? For Aksum, the fall didn't come from one single blow. It was a slow tightening of the noose.
At its height, the Aksumite Empire began to lose control in trade and power.
Aksum had international relations as far as trade is concerned. It was okay or good until the 7th century. But after the rise of Islam, problems emanated or developed.
The rise of Islam has disconnected or insulated Aksum from her previous relationship with countries along the Eastern Mediterranean. This has again economically affected the power of Aksum.
So we have a religious shift, we have an economic shift, and we have an ecological shift. So the influences of all three of those factors lead to a very precipitous decline of the Aksumite Empire. And at that point, there seems to have been a threshold which is crossed.
When they became a bit weaker economically, they became also politically or militarily weak. And they could not resist any attack from any direction. According to some, it is assumed that several ethnic groups are said to have revolted against them. As usual, they were doing this before. But the Aksumites had no power to subjugate them. This made Aksum absolutely weak.
By the 6th and 7th centuries, the global trade routes that made Aksum rich began to shift. The rise of the Persian Empire in the east and the expansion of the Byzantine Empire in the Mediterranean reshaped commerce. Then came the rapid spread of Islam in the 7th century, which transformed trade patterns across the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. Muslim powers began to dominate the maritime trade routes Aksum once controlled. And while Ethiopia would go on to have centuries of interaction, sometimes friendly, sometimes tense, with its Muslim neighbors, the economic center of gravity had moved. On top of that, environmental changes took their toll. Deforestation, soil exhaustion, and perhaps shifts in rainfall patterns made it harder to sustain large urban populations. Bit by bit, Aksum's power base shrank. By the 10th century, the once mighty empire had retreated from the coast into the highlands, becoming more isolated from global trade. But here's the thing. Aksum never truly vanished. Its Christian heritage, written language, and architectural traditions became the foundation of Ethiopian civilization for centuries to come. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church still traces its roots to the Aksumite era. The Ethiopian script, Ge'ez, is still read and taught, and the pride of Aksum's independence lives on in Ethiopia's long history as one of the only African nations never colonized. The kingdom of Aksum may no longer stand, but its story still echoes in every Ethiopian monument, every church bell, every flag that carries the memory of a time when Africa stood among the world's great powers. My people, the kingdom of Aksum is a reminder that Africa has been here before, right? We've been at the table of world powers, not as beggars, not as charity cases, but as equals, trading with Rome, negotiating with Persia, sailing to India, printing our own money. Yet somehow, we've been taught to believe that Africa's story began with colonization, that before the ships came, we had nothing. Aksum destroys that lie. It tells us that African leadership is not a dream, it's a memory. That we have governed vast trade networks before, that we have innovated, created, and commanded respect on the global stage. But memories can fade, and if we don't learn from them, they become just stories instead of strategies. So here's the challenge for us. In a time when Africa is once again in the middle of a global power struggle, when the US, China, Russia, and Europe are all fighting for influence in Africa, will we remember the lessons of Aksum? Will we control the trade routes of the future, our minerals, our data, our agriculture? Or will we let others control them for us? Because history is clear. When Africa controls its trade, Africa controls its destiny. And we've done it before. The question is, will we do it again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story gave you a new perspective on African history, share it so more people know that Africa's greatness didn't start yesterday and it doesn't have to wait for tomorrow. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Sandra Babu-Boateng, and until next time, take care. Hey you! Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Also, visit face2faceafrica.com for your daily news and updates on what's going on within the global Black community so you can stay informed.